Hi everyone, this is Meteorologist Amy Metz guiding you through the latest with what was Super Typhoon Vongfong. Now I have put a region here under the cursor to show what's been going on right now. As you can see, we have wind gusts up to 62 knots per hour. So that's going to be equivalent to about 75 miles per hour, a little less than that. This can do a lot of damage. Send trees over onto homes, knock over plenty of different structures. So we are hoping the best for everybody as this typhoon continues going northward over the region. Right now, the forecast has been pretty good as far as direction. We do know it should be heading north, but with these larger wind gusts in here later on, expected more toward 90 miles per hour, I get a lot more worried about everybody's safety. Now, this hurricane does appear to be intensifying as it's leaving land and crossing over these waters here. There's not as much wind shear in this area. It's able to continue gaining strength, pulling in faster winds without the obstruction of a lot of land to downgrade the winds. So things will very likely continue ramping up. And if we look northward, we see even heavier totals. So this is wind gusts closer to 88 knots at their peak on the forecast in just a few hours here. This is going to be for another peninsula within the Philippines. That is also comparable to Category 1 strength hurricanes. So the forecast track is going up the coast. As long as it stays near land, we should see more downgrades, as we've seen here, where we also see that by the time it got close, it was within the tropical depression category. So at the first onslaught, things weren't too bad. Now where we're looking at things heading and where we are now, in the future, it is getting a little more intense before it gets better again. So we have a little bit more to work through as this continues inching its way north, just to make sure people are safe. There have been a lot of evacuations in place. So I just hope, I don't know a lot about this area, and I'd love to connect with more people in the region to learn more, but I don't know a lot about the structures. So for now, what I do know is the meteorology side of this and how these winds work and how wind shear works. So for those of you who are not, really knowing typhoons, it's the same thing as a hurricane. Their super typhoon is 114 miles per hour. Now that's going to be Category 3 hurricane. This is something I just found on Google. That's devastating damage. We have a lot of these people that are already in the category of some damage, and there's plenty more that are forecast, and I think with good probable cause, to end up in the realm of extensive damage. So we do have videos starting to come in. It's more looking like tropical storms so far, what I've seen anyway. I've heard there were some deaths, but it was hearsay at this point for me. But, just to give you an idea of the difference between the typhoon categories versus hurricanes, they're very similar. The super typhoon here at the bottom is what we would call that devastating Category 3 damage. Meters per second is widely used, and if you double it, it's about the same. It's a 2.2 difference. So here we're looking at this 51 super typhoon, 51 meters per second, can be equivalent to our Category 3. This is definitely devastating, and I do know some of these homes are not quite as structurally sound as we find along the Gulf. So that's where we're finding our other disturbance right now. This is my very favorite site for anything hurricane season stateside. It covers a lot here, and what we have right now is a low pressure system over the Atlantic with probable reason for development. You can also see the eastern and the central Pacific hurricane centers here, or just at least the broad outlook, to see if there are any storms. There'll be different symbols, and you can see those down at the bottom underneath the map, the different symbols. But normally we're going to see these storms originating in Africa. Right now, a lot of times there's these tropical waves that come and starts rotating the air on a large scale, and they end up drifting toward the United States, toward the Caribbean, and other islands in that area, causing damage. And so right now we have one that's developing in the Gulf. And as you see, you can hang the cursor over here and read about what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. as is, and let me know what you think about these and how you prefer things to be told to you. So regardless of development, the disturbance has the potential to bring heavy rainfall to portions of the Florida Keys, Southeast Florida, and the Bahamas through Saturday. Tropical storm force wind gusts are also possible in the Florida Keys, Southeast Florida, and the Bahamas during the next day or two. Hazardous marine conditions are also expected along the Florida East Coast and in the Bahamas, where gale warnings are in effect. See products from your local weather office and high seas forecasts for more details. An Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunter aircraft is scheduled to investigate the system tomorrow if necessary. The next special tropical weather outlook on the system will be issued by 9 p.m. Eastern Time, today or earlier if necessary. The formation of the chance here, I really love that they do these. This is going to be model guidance plus human hand here. They say over the next 48 hours, there's a 70% chance of this forming into now more of a storm, an actual organized storm. Through the next 5 days, they're giving that an 80% chance. Those are both high chances. I would agree. I see some factors here that could play a role in helping this storm develop, especially once we get rid of some wind shear. So we can move on into the next thing that I have to show you here, now that we've looked at the National Hurricane Center. There's some wind shear guidance that I like to follow. And just to give you a starter here, I'm going to show you what wind shear is specifically. Here's the GOES satellite, a geostationary satellite, here brought to you by NOAA.gov, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. These are our tax dollars at work and some great resources. This is a new satellite here where you can really differentiate the lower level clouds from the upper level clouds, which gives us a perfect explanation for wind shear. Now, if I were to look at this, knowing there's a tropical disturbance here, I'm able to see that the southern portion of Florida does indeed have that circular rotation in the counterclockwise motion like we see in the northern hemisphere. Now I also see this these clouds moving in from Mississippi over Alabama. That appears to have kind of a broad easterly flow with it. Upper level clouds here, they're moving in a similar speed, a similar direction to what we see with the low pressure system to the south, the one that is likely to be forming into something more organized. Right now we're not seeing organization though. Not quite, not just yet. I mean, there is some, but if you look at this mouse right here and think about it being in the sky and having a pole all the way down into the water, down into the ocean below, you take that pole and you see that the winds are going different ways in different places along the pole. In the bottom, and then near the water, you're going to see that they're moving toward the coast of Georgia, toward the coast of Florida. But then if you get higher up on that pole, we're seeing what is happening with that low pressure developing upper levels right now. It is moving the opposite direction. That is wind shear. And when the difference is really large, that's called high wind shear, more intense wind shear. If they're moving in the same direction and the same speed, that's no wind shear. If these clouds at the bottom and the top are moving in the same direction and just a little bit of a different speed, that's just low wind shear. And those are the kind of things that will stop hurricanes from getting strong. But what helps them build is that moisture flowing in from the other side. All this moisture that's going to join together eventually, if it's still moving in the same motions in a way that's going to help organize the storm with more moisture and more rain, like I see coming, well, then we have another probable reason to expect another storm right here, a little ahead of hurricane season. So this is a wind shear map, and I'm just in love with Weather Underground's map here. I'm going to definitely put this on my YouTube description so you can access this. It can be kind of hard to find, but there's so many options here for different data sets. What I'm going to choose to use just for right now, I think will help me the best, is the 24-hour shear tendency. And this is the latest available data. So don't get overwhelmed by all these colors, all these numbers and lines. It can be quite easy, but just keep in mind our reference points there near Florida with this storm. And let's look at the colors. We have reds, We have whites, we have blacks. So what do these mean? The blacks are low numbers. The reds are high numbers. Okay, so let's take a look at what these colors and numbers mean. Oh, current, shear, and knots. All right, so I said high wind shear along that theoretical pole I made over the mouse, over Florida, and you can see indeed, yeah, there's the red colors. There's even some whites for some of the more intense wind shear that we could really even record. So yeah, that was just quite opposite wind speeds, wind directions, about the greatest differential you can come up with. So that is going to stop this from developing into anything very severe right now. But if you look now where it says increasing, decreasing, we're going to kind of dissect these lines now. It is building the wind shear there. That's good. That's going to continue to keep this tropical disturbance at bay for now anyway. And then these decreasing wind shears so that we do see near the actual development itself, and also up where we saw that moisture plume coming in from the east. That's the part that we want to worry about as far as knowing that this is probable to intensify. So there is good cause here for us to start thinking about what precautions we might want to take for anyone who is living along that area of the Atlantic and the Gulf, right along the coast. It's about time to start maybe getting a jump start on your hurricane preparations. Of course, a lot of people living there that have lived there a while already know the drill and have places to go. But yeah, just heed these warnings as they come in. We have amazing tools available showing you these increasing wind shears, decreasing wind shears, and I'll just continue going over the details of these things so you can understand them a little better. And just keep showing you my favorite resources so you can understand those better. And National Hurricane Center is your go-to if I'm not available. Otherwise, stay tuned to Weather Woman on Facebook. You can watch Weather Woman on YouTube or find Amy Metz reporting on YouTube, and I'll be putting up forecasts there just to help you and to let me continue being a meteorologist. And as I say goodbye here, I'll take another quick or snapshot at the Vongfong. So really, my heart goes out to these people here. If you know anyone living here, these are really serious wind speeds. So do reach out to them. Make sure they have a plan, somewhere safe to go. And if they don't, just reach out to me. Start looking at options on how people can stay safe through these storms, because right about now, this tip is about to get hit with some pretty severe winds. So I hope everyone the best, and